Hello. I have done my project about a book called Poltap, which in English is called The Deluge by Henryk Sienkiewicz, who is a Polish author. And the basic story of The Deluge is about a noble Andrzej Kmichik, and he was a pretty bad guy earlier in life, but in a show of complete nationalism and religion, or not really religion, but spirituality, and anyways, he turned around and decided to stop aiding the Swedish invaders and turned to the cause of King Casimir II and Poland. Now, one of the interesting things about this book is how it reflects the time period from which it was written. Now, this book is in a trilogy called, amazingly, The Trilogy, and it is very popular in Poland, yet it really has no audience anywhere else. However, it did win the Nobel Prize for Literature, and in 1886 Poland was really dealing with some hard economic troubles, so unity was very important. And for this time period in the 17th century, Poland, this was about Polish-Lithuania Commonwealth, which was a very large nation that we really don't hear about anymore. It had the largest population in Europe at that time, even larger than Russia. And it stretched through Poland, the Ukraine, Lithuania, Belarus, even almost went all the way to Moscow, and also much of Germany. So it was a pretty big place. And during that time, it was being invaded by several foreign countries, and this one focused mainly on the Swedes, which almost took over the whole country because of disunity and disloyalty to the king by the nobles. And this book labels their disloyalty as selfish and self-serving, which really shows that he really thinks that they should have to stick together with their central government. And another thing that I thought was very interesting was how, although it was a historical fiction, many of the characters were actually real people, and he just sort of romanticized their accounts. Like Andrzej Kmichik, who was the main character, he was actually based off of a character known as, let me find it. Doesn't. Anyways, and then, that doesn't matter, but some of the larger people, such as John II Casimir, he was actually the king of Polish-Lithuania Commonwealth at that time, but they really got personal with him and showed him as this great leader who had tons of charisma, which kind of distorted the history of it, because he was actually a coward and very physically inept. And then also the Radzivills, they were the villains of the book, and they represented the disunity, and because they were one of the first ones to sell out to the Swedes, and they end up being killed in very quite nasty fashions. And that brings me to another point about the book. You can really tell that it was written in a time period where there wasn't so much humanism or toleration, so it's very pro-Catholic, because Sienkiewicz was a very Catholic person and religious, so he called the Swedes, who were Protestant, heretics, which definitely would not stand today, and this book is largely disliked in Sweden and the Ukraine largely for that reason. And he also glorified death to a pretty big extent. For instance, they have a practice called impaling where they would I don't know, it's quite nasty. I would rather not explain it, but it's very gruesome by today's standards. But they considered it awesome and a true show of nationalism. So, and I would recommend this book because you really don't hear about the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It seems to have been just wiped from history, whereas it was a very large and important, one of the, probably even, definitely a superpower in Europe in its heyday, so to speak. And being the largest population, that's a lot of people it affects. And also, something else, but I know, I was thinking about it. Very important thing. Oh yes, it gives their perspective of the Eastern European goings-on of that time period from one specific country, so through learning about that one country, you largely gain a, albeit very biased, view of those other countries, with Sweden being led by King Charles Gustaf and the Khan of the Tartars, and it was very largely the political movements of that era, while also enticing you with a great story of honor and love and amnesty. Not so much amnesty. Nah. Anyways, so, but it also is quite long and kind of vague, and, well, you should only read it if you really want to. So, but I really enjoyed it. It was a great eye-opener to history in Eastern Europe, and it's very entertaining too. All the violence and the like. So, goodbye. This has been my video, and I will be done now.